Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Don't Praise the Machine. My name is Alexander Holland, and as always, I'm joined by my number one prince of podcasting. He's got to be the one called... I said, he's got to be the one called... Hello, John Maloney, come in. Will you come in? Ladies and gentlemen, it appears that for the first time in podcast history, maybe the second, John Maloney is not with us. Has he passed on to the other side? No. In fact, it's the opposite of that. Rather than a life being taken, a life has been given. And John Maloney texted me last night in Berlin, which would have been Saturday evening. We were prepared to record Sunday morning, and he sent me a text very late last night and said, "Hey, bro, sorry about this, but I might not be able to do the podcast tomorrow because we've just got to the hospital because Jacinta has gone into some form of labor, and it looks like I might be having a child tomorrow morning, which is going to make recording the podcast logistically a bit difficult." I was enraged. I did not take it well at all. And I said, don't they have PowerPoints at hospitals? Do they not have Wi-Fi? Have hospitals somehow been getting through life with no internet? That doesn't sound plausible. And he said, look, I could probably do that, but I don't really think it's going to go down well with Jacinta or the hospital staff. And if you want me to continue doing the podcast whilst I am father, particularly new father, then I think I'm going to have to not record this week's episode. And then I went to bed just absolutely furious, and I woke up this morning, opened my WhatsApp, and I had a beautiful text message from John Maloney with a series of beautiful baby photographs of him and Jacinta and their brand new baby daughter. I am happy to announce, I assume that I will be able to announce this for the Patreons this evening and the wider Don't Praise the Machine community on Monday evening, Europe time, Tuesday morning, Australia time. So massive congratulations to John Maloney and Jacinta and new as yet unnamed baby girl. They did it so old school. They really didn't know the sex of the baby until it was born, which, I mean, he had mentioned that to me before. He'd said, yeah, we're not going to know the sex of the baby. But a part of me thought, oh, maybe at some point during this, they did know. I don't know if the doctor let it slip and they've just pretended that they don't really know. But I think they really didn't know, which I think everybody that I know that's been having kids recently has always known the sex of the baby before it comes. So they didn't know right up until till the first moment. And as such, I don't know. I didn't check in with John what the latest stage of naming was. I didn't check if there was a whiteboard that they'd put up in the kitchen and had just been scrawling on it. I'm sure that John had put in big angry letters, many, many arrows facing in. He just put bongus. Why don't you understand, Jacinta? Angry face, more arrows. The name of the baby is Bongus. Actually, Bongus, I think, was going to be a boy's name that I had suggested. And then I wrote to John this morning and I said, I'm so excited and happy for you, my brother, sending my love. Beautiful name for a girl, I think, is Kerfuffle. I said, you've had a daughter. Perhaps the name Kerfuffle could really be on trend in 2025. And he wrote back and he said, Kerfuffle Trump Maloney, which I just thought, what a beautiful girl's name. It's like hyphen, Kerfuffle Trump hyphen Maloney is going to be the name for 2025 of his brand new daughter. So that was an extremely exciting moment for those Maloneys and also me. So I can't wait for the podcast to pivot entirely into just a new parent podcast. It's going to be loads of new parent anecdotes from John And then mine are just going to be more tech. So it's going to be tech. It's going to be tech news and new parent news, and that's the niche going forward in 2025. People are going to say, "Oh, what's the podcast about?" Oh, it's about young new well, not young parents, but new parents and what's been happening in technology this week together at last. And so I woke up this morning and I wondered, what am I gonna get? Oh, the other thing that I was meant to say, which I wrote on my notes, was because their daughter does not yet have a name. Just give myself a little bit of reverb here. I was singing to myself as I got the train to a lunch date, which I'll tell you about in a second, with one of my dear friends. I was singing, because he's been through the pregnancy with a daughter with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. La 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 la. That's a song from the band America called Daughter with No Name. John will be back, I assume, next week. This could be a discussion that has just never really come up with Jacinta. They might just not have raised it. This could very much just be the end of the pod. It's just now at the Alexander Holland YouTube channel, which would be quite a funny turn of events, just like 109. We would right on the cusp of 200 episodes, and then John's just had to bow out and go, oh, yeah, I didn't really think this through. It was going to be a difficult conversation with Jacinta, so I just didn't have it, and there will be no more podcasts. This is the end. This is the end of podcasting for John. You're going to ask me what's on my mind this week. I actually did have something quite techie to speak about. And that is the impending TikTok ban. I mentioned that I had breakfast this morning, brunch with my dear friend Anthony. Shout out Anthony. And we were talking about the potential TikTok ban, which I think it's the Supreme Court have upheld it, or they made some sort of decision within the last 48 hours. And I think a lot of people assumed that this whole TikTok ban thing was all smoke and mirrors. It was all hot air and it was never going to happen. Because when has that ever happened? When has it ever been the case that there was a massively used online platform? Well, I guess Vine maybe was, I guess there would be a comparison to Vine. I wasn't a Viner. So I don't remember Vine dying out. That wasn't something that affected me. But even then, there's no comparison between the reach and cultural impact of Vine versus TikTok. I mean, TikTok has influenced the planet, and I don't know, I should probably know these statistics. I'll have GPT. Are we looking at daily users? Daily active users on TikTok. ChatGPT wants to let me know that as of 2023, TikTok had approximately 1.582 billion monthly active users, while specific figures for daily users are not publicly disclosed. 1.5 billion active users. That is an insane amount of use and influence. And so because of that, I just thought, this isn't going away. Like, no, that's just never happened. That would be like somebody taking TikTok away, would be such the impact of somebody taking TikTok away. But apparently the decision has been upheld and is due to come into effect on the 19th of January. Now, I'm not entirely sure what that is going to look like. Some people were suggesting that it meant that TikTok would just go dark. So you'd click the app on your phone and the app would load but wouldn't be able to pull any of the data in from the servers. So it would just look like it was trying to load the whole time, as if you were almost trying to access it without an internet connection. Other people are saying that what it would mean is that the app is no longer available in the App Store, and so you can no longer download it as a new user from the App Store or the Google Play Store, and also it cannot receive updates. And so it would be this slow death where the app would become more and more decrepit over time, like a creaking mansion falling in on itself. Eventually, the bones of TikTok, the application, just wouldn't be there to hold it anymore, and it would just become unusable. But there've been a lot of very fascinating discussions in particularly the last 48 hours, because in the last 48 hours, I think, is when it really looks like it might actually take place. And there's a few things being said that I myself was not aware of. I had been paying attention to the narrative of the US government saying that it was a national security threat because it's a Chinese-controlled company, ByteDance, and they are able to have a huge amount of not only influence on the kind of content that gets pushed to users in the United States, but also that they are able to accrue everybody's private personal data, which could be used for nefarious purposes in the future. But then what's become very interesting within the last, I suppose in the last couple of years, but particularly the last 6 months, and then particularly the last few days, is that Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Meta, has started making not only media appearances on, most notably on the Joe Rogan podcast, where he showed up in his funky oversized t-shirt and gold chain with his cool curly hair falling down his face, and he's a tough MMA guy. He's not an Android spectrumy man anymore. You can trust him. He went on Rogan and he said that there was pressure from the Biden campaign during COVID, and that he felt uncomfortable with some of the requests that the Biden administration was putting to him and his Meta staff, asking them to take down things from Facebook and Instagram that he was saying were provably true, I suppose. I think he most notably pointed to an example of you weren't allowed to say that vaccines had any side effects, no matter how small the side effects were. You just weren't allowed to say that that was actually a thing that existed. And so he was saying that was an example of big government overreach. And he's saying, look, for no other reason that I've just had a total change of heart, has nothing to do with the change of administrations. I've decided that all of that harsh censorship, if you will, or monitoring, if you want to be more generous, content moderation from Meta that was going on for the last few years, and they've had a content moderation team, I believe, based in California. And Mr. Zuckerberg is saying that that's out the window. I'm going to have a team in Texas, I believe. I think a much leaner team. We're taking the Elon example and we're going lean. And not only are we taking the lean team, Elon example, but we're taking the community notes example from X. Anybody who doesn't know what community notes is, it's a system of, I guess, community moderation brought in by Twitter/X. Before Elon bought X, I believe it was already instituted, and the idea being that the community who uses these apps should be able to, I don't actually know exactly how it works. I think people are able to put their own arguments forward and say, you make a post and somebody says, I think this is true. Somebody else says, I don't think this is true. People can point to sources. And the idea is that some kind of, I think, Wikipedia-esque consensus can come together about the validity of a particular post. So Zuck's come out and gone, we're going more Elon. I'm going more Elon, which the cynical perspective would be that he's trying to buddy up now to the Trump administration, because some of you may remember that it was he who was, and his Meta Corporation, who were quite quick to remove Donald Trump from social media platforms. I think it was it around January 6th? I cannot remember exactly. I think that's when Twitter kicked him off around that time. Obviously, that was not during the time that Elon was there. So Elon's not being blamed for kicking Trump off Twitter. But certainly, I think Donald will remember that Mark kicked him off on Meta platforms. And so that's the first thing that's happening. It does appear, he's trying to sell the whole thing as if he's just had this, man, you know what, like, I've had such a change of heart that there's absolutely no external change of circumstances that have made me do this for strictly business purposes and power and influence purposes. But who knows? Maybe he has come around that Zuck. But the other thing that I didn't realize, talking about the TikTok ban, getting back to that, I'm just going to have a look at this because this is what people on TikTok were saying. They were saying, and I haven't had a ton of time to do a lot of deep research here, so just going to bring up a couple of quick articles as I speak to you live and direct. That Meta and Zuck were pretty instrumental in lobbying Congress to ban TikTok. Now, that doesn't sound like the concerns of a government about a national security threat. That sounds like the concerns of a corporation trying to remove their competition. But of course, that's not what the American government has been saying. They've been saying this is a national security threat, and so that's why it has to go. Both things could be true at the same time, but I think it's interesting that this narrative about Meta lobbying the government, lobbying Congress, spending a lot of money to get a lot of influence in Congress to remove TikTok, that seems particularly scummy if that is the case, if you're just basically able to buy your competition out of the market. Let's have a look. Zuckerberg, Meta, lobby, TikTok. So what does it say here? We're going to take this article from The Guardian from 2 years ago. Facebook owner reportedly paid Republican firm to push message TikTok is the real threat. Meta, owner of Facebook and Instagram, solicited campaign accusing TikTok of being a danger to American children. Meta, the owner of Facebook, Instagram, and other social media platforms, is reportedly paying a notable GOP consulting firm to create public distrust around TikTok. Let's see if ChatGPT knows. It's interesting because ChatGPT, like OpenAI, has no. I wonder what their skin in this game is. Do they care if Meta platforms does not look good in these situations? Did Meta lobby the US? Yes, Meta platforms, this is very definitive. Yes, I said, did Meta lobby the US government to ban TikTok? Yes, Meta platforms, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, has actively lobbied the US government regarding TikTok. In the first quarter of 2024, Meta spent a record $7.6 million on federal lobbying efforts as Congress considered legislation that could lead to a ban on TikTok, a major competitor to Meta's platforms. This substantial lobbying expenditure coincided with the advancement of the Protecting Americans from Foreign Advocacy Controlled Applications Act, PAFACA, which was signed into law on the 24th of April 2024. Critics, including former President Donald Trump, have suggested that the effort to ban TikTok may benefit competitors like Meta by removing a significant rival in social media landscape. It is important to note, well, it wouldn't be a ChatGPT response without an it's important to note. It's important to note that while Meta's lobbying efforts are documented, the legislative push to ban TikTok is primarily driven by national security concerns over data privacy and potential foreign influence, as stated by US lawmakers and officials. So this is going to be fascinating to see. Wouldn't it be absolutely bizarre to open TikTok on the 19th and it just not work? Us here at DPTM have built a TikTok following of 500 followers on TikTok. It never converted into subscribers on the podcast long form platform. So it was almost completely vanity metrics when you think about it. At least that's my my input in it. We could have kept at it, and maybe eventually it could have, if I don't know, if you're getting to some sort of insane eye-watering level of views, then maybe it translates into something for podcasts. But I think for smaller podcasts, I just think short form video, I'm not really sure just how valuable it is, or wasn't quite sure how we could use it strategically to build a loyal fan base and an audience. But it was fun to at least get our faces out there, and we had a couple of videos get a few 100,000 views. I should actually look now and just actually see what our maybe it'll all be gone soon. Better screenshot all this. So I can just show you on the camera here. So we have there's our Ariane video, which got 645. That's our biggest one. Our Ariane, the world's most overexposed stock model video, 645,000 views, 74,000 likes, over 1,000 comments, and 6,413 saves. So people really wanted to hang on to that one and check it later. Glumlot Fold Core, 188,000. Our video with Ken Sakata and about the fashion man from the Queensland Football Club. This one has 105,000 views. And then our next, that was really, Raygun. We had a Raygun video that got 70,000 views. So, it won't be great if our TikTok account turns to dust. But to be honest, we had not uploaded for a little while for the very reason that I mentioned before, that it just doesn't seem like TikToks translate into a loyal, loving fan base, and they take ages. That's the other thing, was if you want a video on TikTok that holds people's attention, hooks them at the start, it's a lot of editing time. And so it just didn't really seem worth it in the end. But obviously there's people whose entire livelihood is made through TikTok. They've built audiences on TikTok that they can then funnel into some other product. Maybe you post 3 times a day about whatever your health niche is, and TikTok's your main channel. And, every so often you say, hey guys, if you want to learn more about how to be skinny and hot, click the link in my bio, and I'm giving away a free something or other. It's a free PDF about all you need to do. And then you go to that PDF, and it's a beautifully crafted lead magnet where you give them your email, and then you're entering an email nurture cycle where they send you a few emails over the next few weeks, days, and see if they can get you to purchase one of their products. So for those people who rely on it, they're going to be in big trouble. Then there's a lot of people who just sell really directly on TikTok Shop. If you've ever seen TikTok Shop, it's like the shopping channel on TikTok. People just like directly, some of it's live, and then people do TikTok Shop just videos where they say, hey, I got this toothpaste which cleans all of the bad spirits out of your gums. And trust me, all you need to do is take a testing strip like this, and you roll it on your gums, and if it's slightly moist when it comes out of your hand, that means you've got bad spirits in your gums. And the only way to get rid of those bad spirits is to buy this toothpaste. And I've got the details about it in the comment of this video. And then you go there, and it's an affiliate link for TikTok Shop or whatever, and you get a sweet cut for everybody who buys the special toothpaste that stops you from having haunted gums. And so all those people are going to go as well. There was a statistic that I saw about the amount of money that's generated on TikTok for creators such as that. I think it's like an insane amount of millions of dollars that it generates directly and indirectly for creators. So that's like a huge bunch of people to just say, right, you can't have that money no more. But we'll keep you updated where TikTok goes. Nobody knows. But this is Don't Praise the Machine, the world's #1 comedy podcast, all about the ways that technology is changing culture and so much more. I can't wait for next week when my co-host John Junior Boost Maloney is back, and he's got that real dad energy. I'm expecting him to appear in a very ugly cardigan and to be a little bit crotchety and more conservative, looking kind of tired with messed up hair and a bottle of Victoria Bitter beer in his hand. And he better have a name for that daughter, because I don't know what happens if you, how long can you go? Don't you have to put a name on the child in the hospital? Doesn't it have a wristband? Can you put a placeholder name on there? Can you put a number? He can tell me all this when I see him next week. And John Maloney, please come back, because this was a lot of stream of consciousness stuff that I had to do all by myself, and I'm lonely. And as everybody can tell, I started the podcast and it was light outside, and now it's dark, and I'm not sure that I want that to happen again. I prefer the controlled lighting that I remember to do, that I can be bothered to do when we do the podcast together. Ladies and gentlemen, feel free also to send John a congratulatory message if you want to say congratulations, Big Dad Junior Boost. You can say all of that at hello@dptm.org. That's hello@dptm.org. Pass on your best wishes. Give him some new cool parenting tips. What can he expect? He would absolutely love that. And we can't wait to see you next week at the podcast.